Well, it's story time. And today's story falls in that category of, what was I thinking? Hello everybody, this is Godsgirlg G. Thank you for joining me today for another video. For those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. I'd like to encourage you today to, if you haven't already, to subscribe. That way you'll be notified of any new videos that I upload, which I try to do weekly. So let's get started. Today's video, it's another story from my past. Gotta love it. This is a story about a time when I actually dated one of the elders from my church. Now, I am going to tell you, this is my disclaimer. This is my story and this is my experience. What that means is, not everybody, not every elder of every church, and not everybody that goes to a church or anything like that. This is not like how everybody is. This is just my experience, my story, and I own it. I will be changing the names and changing some of the details of the information to protect my privacy. Let's get into it. We will call his name Elder Larry. So I want to make sure that I am setting the scene of this story, and so that you know about what was going on in my life during the time that all of this started. This was a time about 2 years after the divorce, the ending of my first marriage, and I was attending a predominantly white church. And upon the time of my divorce, I actually purchased a home. And so by that time, I had been in my home for about 2 years. I was starting to feel better about myself, but wasn't sure I was ready to start dating. Well, in this predominantly white church, I actually participated in both the choir and the praise team. As many church ladies do, these women, these mothers of the church do, whenever they see a single person, they always want to know your story and why are you not married? And so these mothers of the church just wanted to go and just find a husband for me. And I remember making sure that they knew that I was a happily single person. Wasn't trying to get back involved with too much. I was just trying to get my bearings straight from my divorce. Well, I happened to meet Elder Larry for the very first time when I actually joined the church. He was on the elders committee as well as he was a part of the church board. And as was customary in that church, any new member had to go forth on Sunday after attending new members class and get welcomed into the church by the elders and the church board. Several months went by after that, and I continued to participate in ministry. And the church that I attended, they had 2 services. One service was an early morning service, and the other service was a later morning service. And in between those services, they had a kitchen where they actually served the choir members a light snack to make sure that they had enough energy in them to be able to get through the second service, because singing takes a lot out of you. I'm just saying. So I happened to be in the church kitchen grabbing a light snack and some orange juice when in walks Elder Larry. And you have to know that during this time, during choir rehearsals and different types of rehearsals, I remember the ladies of the church were getting to know me. And of course, I had bought this house and I was just looking for some, gently used patio furniture. And I had made everybody aware that I was looking for some patio furniture. If they had anyone that had any patio furniture to, let me know and maybe I'd be interested in buying it. Well, like I said, I was in the kitchen in between services, and in walks Elder Larry. Of course, everybody was like, oh, hello, because again, this was a nice sized church, so it was quite a few people in that very large kitchen area. Elder Larry proceeded to make his way over to me, and he was just like, oh, Sister so-and-so, how are you enjoying being a part of this church? And so again, thought he was doing small talk. I said, oh, it's just been really, really great. And he said, I happened to hear that you were looking for some gently used patio furniture. And in my mind, I was like, yes. And then I started to thinking, like, daggone it, those mothers of the church. I think that they might have put him up to that, but I'm not sure. He proceeds to tell me that he had some furniture that he would just be willing to just give to me. And I said, so you're going to give me some patio furniture? Because my mother used to always tell me nothing is for free. He proceeds to tell me that he had this patio furniture. I was like, well, what are they? He's like, oh, it's just some chairs. And I was like, well, I could probably fit those chairs in the trunk of trunk of my car. He's like, oh no, these chairs are kind of bulky. Let me just use my, truck and bring those over. And, I was a little skeptical about anybody knowing where I was living because of an experience that I had in my past. And so if you haven't seen my broken engagement story, take a look at that. That might explain a little bit about my hesitancy. So anywho, I just did not want him to know where I lived. And so I guess he saw that I was struggling. He saw I was struggling with giving him my address. And he said, hey, sister so-and-so, I promise you, I'm not a crazy guy. I'm not a stalker. I promise you, I'm not going to cross any lines or boundaries, and I'll respect your privacy. After he just kept talking to me, I finally acquiesced and told him, okay. And so I gave him my address, and he said, would you mind giving me your phone number as well so I can at least let you know when I'm on my way to respect your privacy. Now, again, smooth. That was a smooth move because in my mind that made sense. I'm like, okay, we could do that. And so I ended up giving him my address and phone number. And so, make a long story short, I believe he came by, I think it might have been that following Monday, after I had gotten off of work. And so he pulled up, he wanted to make sure I was, he called and he said he was on his way. And I remember meeting him outside because I didn't want anybody coming in my house because I'm a private person. I don't want nobody in my house. I'm just saying. So anyway, he proceeded to get the chair out and he said, would you like for me to take it and put it on your back patio? The furniture out, would you like for me to put it on your back patio? I said, nope, just keep it in the garage because again, that's how tight I was back then, y'all. I didn't trust anybody. And so he just kind of looked at me and he said, look, I would not be a gentleman if I let you carry these chairs into the back of your patio. You're a small lady. I'm not sure if you can actually handle the bulk of these chairs. Again, smooth. I said, okay. So he brought the furniture around and again, we were walking back to the front. He took a look at the yard and he said, do you have a landscaper or anybody? And in my mind, I'm thinking, no, why would I have a landscaper? And yes, I didn't have any flowers or anything planted. But again, the house was fairly new, not sweat off my back, right? The house still looked cute, but I just didn't have a whole lot of flowers planted and it just looked very plain in the front. So he proceeds to tell me that he does landscaping on the side and he would be more than happy to get some flowers and stuff and, do some landscape work for me. And I said, for how much? What's the cost of all of this? He then proceeds to tell me, oh, don't worry about it. I enjoy doing things like that. I said, I said, so you're going to buy all the flowers? He said, yes. And I said, and all the mulch? He said, yes. And I said, and he kept saying, I promise you there is no strings attached. And again, not sure I'm buying that. But you know what? I'm going to go along with it for a minute. But he ain't going to get nothing from me. He ain't going to get nothing from me. So anyway, we communicated. I sent him my email address because he wanted to send me some pictures of some landscape work that he had done. Now, what I found out was all those landscaping pictures was from his house. He really didn't do it like a job. He kind of did it as a hobby. I later found out. So anyway, when he came over to do the landscape work, I met him at the door. It was on a Saturday, and I remember if he's going to do this work, I'm not going to let him do his work by himself because since he's covering all of the materials, I'm at least going to be a part of the labor and actually do the work in my own yard. So we proceed to work, and we work probably from about 8 in the morning until maybe about 1 o'clock. And during this time, he was asking me a lot of questions. So you're divorced. So he was asking all these questions. And I said, yeah, I'm divorced. And I said, well, what about you? And he was like, yeah, I'm divorced too. And I said, oh, okay. Now, I didn't ask him how long he had been divorced or anything like that. And so put a pin in that. So anyway, we proceed to talk. And in my mind, I kept getting convicted. I'm like, the least I can do is buy this man some lunch. So I said, look, are you hungry? And he was like, I am famished. So I said, okay, tell you what, I'm going to lock up. You continue to work. I'm going to go get us some fast food. That's all I'm going to do. Got his order, went and got some fast food, brought it back. Got convicted because I didn't want him in my house, y'all. I'm sorry. I just have this thing, but I got so convicted on the drive back that he was doing all of this work out in this heat. Because again, it was around the springtime. I think it was like the end of May, something like that. So he was doing all of this work out in this hot sun. And I was just like, I felt guilty. So I invited him into my air conditioned house to at least so he could have some lunch. You know, I did acquiesce on that one too. And he then told me a little bit more about himself, how long he had been going to the church and things like that. And he said, you seem like a really nice lady. And I was like, well, thank you. I said, you seem like a very nice gentleman. So near the end, when we were wrapping up, and he just said, you know, I've really enjoyed working with you on your yard. And he said, would you be open to me calling you and just, you know, talking to you sometime? And I said, you know, well, sure, that would be nice. I said, I've really enjoyed talking to you. Now, again, I didn't think a thing of it. I was just like, he's being nice. Again, I want to take anything slow. I'm not going to assume anything. Very nice. He showed himself very gentlemanly. Okay, moving on. So later in that week, he ended up calling me, and he had interest in going to hear, I guess, some jazz and going to get an appetizer. So we had this place here that served jazz and appetizer, live jazz and appetizers. And, you know, one of the things that I told him when we were doing landscape, he was like, well, what are some things that you like to do? I was just like, I love live music. I just love the opportunity to have, you know, listen to some live music. So we ended up going to this jazz place. And I kept remembering during this time, he kept looking over his shoulder a lot, and he was very particular about not sitting in the way of other people seeing us sit together. I just remember that. Put a pin in that. So anyway, we continued to talk, continued to engage with each other. And when we would see each other at church, it would be kind of like just, hello, how are you doing? And then we would move along. Because again, and from my history and background, I learned the hard way of keeping any type of love interest or anything like that on the down low until you, as a couple or as two people, you are ready to outwardly display that you are interested in someone. I had to learn that lesson the hard way, especially when you are up front in a public position. Down low until both of you agree when it's time to actually reveal yourself or come out as a couple. Okay, so our relationship started to progress down that path. And I just remember it was during that time because I think a couple of months had passed easily. I think maybe about 4 months had passed. We started talking, got to know each other a little bit. But it was also during this time that his ground rules about a relationship became very clear and evident. So here are some of his rules. And I remember I had to write these down as I was thinking about how to tell the story, because I wanted to make sure I didn't miss any rules, because that's how many rules he had, see. First of all, he wanted to keep our relationship very low-key. No public or private displays of affection, except for hugging. No pictures. He didn't like a lot of pictures. No going to the movies. He really didn't believe in that. He thought movies were silly. Only go to restaurants that he approved of. Now, he didn't say it that way, but it became abundantly clear he only wanted to go to certain restaurants. And then last, his one big rule that just used to just frustrate me so much was that he did not want me to meet his mother. Why, you might ask? Because he came from a very strict Christian family who did not believe in divorce. And so with him having said that he was divorced and me being divorced, his family wouldn't look negatively upon that, mainly his mother. Now, all I just shared with you, it should have been a ton of red flags. Danger, danger. That's what that should have said to you. But no, not me. Me trying to look at relationships differently, and I'm thinking, well, all these rules will be good because it will keep you from falling into temptation and things like that. I was like, okay, I can get down with that. Now, Herein lies the problem. After you've been dating someone for so long and you start seeing that maybe there is a path there for marriage, you start wanting to make it known. But he was a stickler on the keep everything low key. So you have to know that we dated for about a year and a half. And it was at the 6-month mark that I was just like, now, wait a minute, something has to change here. And he just kept saying, just bear with me. I have to make sure the pastor is okay with us dating and all of these other rules. And again, danger, danger, danger. So all of these signs, and again, I just thought maybe I just need to be saved. Anyhow, it was near the end of our relationship when I started to break things off. I was like, I don't know if I want this anymore, because it was just too much. That he said something to me that I just could not believe. You ready? Here goes. He confessed that when we were first dating, he was still married. Shut the door. Shock rings out across the YouTube universe. Elder was still married during the first several months of our talking. Now, the reason why this is so major is because when I asked him during the landscaping episode, was he married or was he divorced? What he said, he was divorced. So he lied. Man, with all these rules, all of a sudden you gonna lie. What in the devil is all of this? So here are the lessons from that relationship other than the obvious. Let's see, never do that again. Elders and ministers are just like everybody else. They don't get a golden pass and are not vetted. You need to vet everybody that comes your way. Now, what didn't make no sense is how these mothers of the church gonna try to fix me up with somebody that had just gotten out of a marriage or whatever. How you gonna still be married? And you gonna push? The devil is a liar, and the truth is nowhere in him. Next, if you find yourself falling for the same type of man over and over again, because what I didn't say is that previously I was married to a minister, okay? And that didn't work out for reasons that I may tell you, I don't know yet, because that one is still a pretty fiery story. But married to a minister. And so this guy, Elder Larry, was displaying the same characteristics as my ex-husband. So if you find yourself falling for the same person that has the same traits of a person that you dated and it didn't work out, that's a sign that you need to work on some things. And the last lesson that I learned, just because the person says that they are an elder or a minister or a person who has all of these relationship rules, if those rules do not go over well with you, you don't have to sacrifice because of somebody else's rules. I'm just saying. So that's my story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Thanks.